You know, there's a strong India presence at Davos. There's also a strong Saudi presence at Davos. And you were, ma'am, in Saudi Arabia recently, and I saw how in Pakistan everyone had a meltdown about the kind of position and respect that you'd been accorded. It seems the first non-Muslim person to be allowed in some of those areas in Makkah, Medina. What did you make of the kind of warmth between India and Saudi Arabia at this time and the kind of reaction that we saw after that?
I think the Islamic world has shown much respect for Prime Minister Modi. And what you saw in terms of respect accorded to the Indian delegation was just a part of that engagement. But why did the Indian delegation go? The Prime Minister speaks about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Prayas. Our intention is Hajj will start just when the elections will be at the anvil. Preparations then will become logistically a nightmare for many bureaucrats. Additionally, every year we have 1.2 million Indians who go for Umrah to Saudi Arabia. And there are logistical challenges which have to be met, diplomatic issues that need to be addressed. Apart from the fact that you want to ensure that while we are propagating that more and more women become parts of those delegations. If you look at our Hajj numbers, 47% of those who went in 2023 were women. So while we are trying to facilitate the travel of women, while we are trying to ensure the safety and security of our citizens by deploying CAPF personnel, and while for the first time Prime Minister has allowed us to leverage our ecosystem in the health ministry, I think it's a collaborative attempt between 6 ministries and 2 nations for the greater good of a population which is 200 million plus.
Much was also made on a different note of your bindi and your sari and the fact that you were in Mecca, Medina, and especially in Pakistan.
I didn't go to Mecca.
No, the fact that in Saudi Arabia...
I did have the privilege of speaking to the Deputy Governor of Mecca, who was kind enough to engage with us at the instruction of the Royal Court. But I think that we have come to a pass and a time in our humanity, in our democracy, where we can show respect for each other, irrespective of our religious belief, and actually adhere to our own religious norms while fulfilling our administrative or legislative duties.
Because Prime Minister Modi's opponents find that quite difficult to square. The fact that the UAE Sheikh came and there was a roadshow in Ahmedabad, lots of people lining both sides.
And a gentleman who rarely speaks.
Yeah, and coming out and being
very
part of the
warmly about
roadshow.
India.
What do you
as
make
Prime
of
Minister.
that? The kind of response we're getting from the Gulf Arab states?
I think that this is a compliment not only to the Prime Minister's diplomatic overtures, but most of the warmth and the relationship that he shares with global leaders. But to back it, I recall your interview with Borge, where he let slip, and maybe it's a Freudian slip or otherwise, that he looks forward to inviting Prime Minister Modi in 25. So there is an acceptance of continuity of government under Prime Minister Modi's leadership. What is also fascinating is that when you look at it from a WEF perspective, there is also a desire for investments to look at how much of your environment will be politically stable. So Prime Minister Modi today has become not just an individual, he's become a political ideology and in fact an economic movement, not only in India but also global south, or for that matter in many other platforms where we've seen geopolitics take some very interesting turns. What he's become symbolic of is patient reform. What he's become symbolic of is ensuring that reform helps percolate and creates more opportunities for people at large, financially or socially. So I just caught up on some news domestically about this lady from an Adivasi hamlet who was very proudly showing off to the Prime Minister the model structure of her entire village. When was the last time that a lady from a vulnerable tribe could speak to her Prime Minister? And in fact, her voice was so overwhelming. The Prime Minister just had this very gentle smile while he heard her elaborately. So I think the Modi magic is working not only in India, but globally.
So you spoke of the 2024 elections. You are sensing the inevitability of the BJP coming back.
Am I the only one sensing it?
The Rahul Gandhi, on the other hand, has just started this Bharat Niyaya Yatra from Manipur to Maharashtra. How do you see the India alliance at this moment, and how do you rate their chances against the BJP?
I think that the fact that Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary was articulate enough to say that they cannot fight the Modi magic. I think the fact that Mr. Tharoor accepts that we will, in the BJP, be the single largest party. I think the fact that after the overwhelming defeat of the Congress party and the India Alliance in the recent assembly elections, the writing is on the wall. So while they march for dynasty, Modi marches ahead globally for prosperity for all.
Do you sense the prospects of a bigger victory, or do you think, given that there is 10 years of anti-incumbency now, or pro-incumbency, or 10 years of governance which will be
I'm not a political
judged?
pundit, Rahul. I'm just a simple Indian housewife. I can only say
That's
this.
hardly the case.
I'll only say, no. All it takes is a housewife with a mind of her own to go to Amethi and win an election. But I also feel that, like I said, Modi has gone beyond political tutelage or political analysis. He's genuinely become a movement and an ideology for people. And you've been a witness to it yourself as a journalist, people don't look at him from a perspective of an office. People don't look at him from a perspective of a political prism. They genuinely, for the lack of a better word, he's genuinely become a part of their families. And that's very difficult in India, to rip apart a family.
There is some talk.
So when Prime Minister says, "Mere parivar jano," he really means it, because that's the kind of love and that is the kind of support he sees in India.
There's some talk now of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra potentially contesting from UP, whether it's Rai Bareli or Amit.
No idea.
What do you make of the prospect of this potential
No idea.
clash?
I think that what is significant politically, and I say so this personally because I don't speak for my party on this, I'm not the official spokesperson on this issue, but what is interesting is that she has been bereft of any political responsibility in her organization after being responsible for Uttar Pradesh in the assembly elections. Now, when victory is definite, nobody shies away from a responsible position. The fact that they have been now devoid of that responsibility means that they will also be denied the blame for the, I think, momentous loss that awaits the Congress party.
So finally, what is Davos for you? Is it one meeting, or do you also get to go out? I mean, you've been out and about just for the interview to get to see the sidelights as well, just a bit?
No, you don't get. When you're working for Modi, you don't get to do anything. You just have a work focus and nothing else, and then you pack your bags and go back home.
Really? Narayan Murthy said you have to work 70 hours. I'm sure your schedule will stretch much more
for
beyond.
somebody who works 18 hours a day, I can only supplement what Mr. Murthy says, but I do recognize that there is a segment in our populace which says that everything is not about pursuing work, but we are a country hungry for success. When the Prime Minister speaks of 2047 and what a developed nation as a national agenda means, well then, Mr. Murthy, more power to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking our time. We have a whole group of officials waiting for you. Lots of meetings, as you said, all work and no play, back to back. So we wish you all the best.
That's the Modi way.
Yeah, that's the Modi way. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you.